So the first one is Moon in Aries. Moon in Aries, again, because it's emotions. Moon in Aries doesn't really know what patience is. So Moon in Aries in an emotional situation, definitely very passionate, incredibly emotional, incredibly sort of reactive. They react straight away. So Moon in Aries have a tendency to be quite impulsive. So even though, let's say, your sun is very sort of calm and I don't know, let's say you're Taurus with your sun. If your moon is in Aries, like you'll do really strange things when you're angry or when you don't feel safe or somebody just provokes you. Um, and you will do it quite often because Aries is also not the kind of person that has patience to sort of go, oh, that's okay, you know, I can handle this. They react. They're very reactive. And another things about Moon and Aries, they can be quite impulsive. They can sort of do something and then regret it afterwards. But on a really good side, they never hold grudges. They move on very quickly. They can do something really outrageous, and then they will apologize, and then they will expect everyone to move on because they don't have patience. They've moved on. Everyone has to move on. That's sort of how Moon in Aries is. You know, they do something, and then they sort of go back to their normal self, and then yeah, they can apologize. They don't have a problem with that, and they move on, and they expect everyone to move on. And if you're stuck, like if you're Moon in Scorpio, that's basically your problem. They'll just think, oh my god, you're a loser. That's how they are. They don't hold any grudges, and that's a really good thing about Moon in Aries. They can sort of like create a little drama and move on, and and it's fine. You know, that's how they are. And dear Lord, if you attack somebody they love, they will probably kill you. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you can sort of attack them, but never attack the people they love because they'll be quite fierce. And similar to Moon in Aries are also incredibly protective of people they love, and they will take if you offend people they love, they'll take it quite personally. And so if you offend, sort of, Moon in Aries will associate quite a lot with what they do, what they have. Sort of this sense of identity would be sort of quite external. And if you attack that, they'll be a bit shaky. But they're not gonna get all sort of teary about it. They're going to fight back. They will defend their position, and they will just probably not hang out with you. They'll just go, oh, you're not worth my time. This sort of, I'm quite selective in terms of what sort of people, even though they can be sort of nice and friendly with everyone, they're really selective in terms of who they attach to. They take time to really get to know you, and it's not like they test you, but they take time to understand. Oh, okay, you deserve my time and attention. They're quite generous, but in terms of really like emotional attachment and commitment, it takes them time. And if you piss them off, wow, like Moon in Taurus is scary when they are angry. But when they're happy, they're very happy and they love sharing their happiness with other people. If they're in a really good mood, in a good state, they want everyone to be like that. And they will be the kind of people that sort of bring a surprise to a party just so everyone will be in a good state. You know, they love sharing and enjoying a good time. But if they're in a shitty mood, then you can get on the wrong side of them. And they hold grudges as well. If you offend them quite deeply, it will be quite a bit of effort to sort of redeem yourself. You will. Moon in Aries. Moon in Aries don't quite do emotion. Moon in Aries is the opposite of what the moon is all about. So they will freak out and will try to avoid the problem at all costs. They will try to they will talk a lot. They'll talk about it quite a lot to you and everyone else. They sort of like cover the problem with the talking. And they'll just do anything to distract themselves. If they can't talk about it, then they'll distract themselves from the problem, And they have serious issues with confrontation. If you're more in Aries who just wants to know, right there, right then, what exactly is happening because they're so impatient, Morning in general just go, whoa, give me space. Morning Aries, space. Give them lots of space. Don't push them because Moon in Aries really enjoy sort of not getting too involved. They just think, I will pass, And that's why they're sort of really easygoing people. Like they usually have quite a few friends and they hang out with people and they're really easy to be around because they sort of create this like really easygoing atmosphere because they don't create drama. If there is drama, they just go, there's no drama. We'll pass by. And it's really good for everyone else. I think the downside of that is that they in relationships they can be quite difficult to pin down. They'll just go, what problem? I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't been talking to you for a week, but really? Yeah, no, I haven't been, but I don't know. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I don't know. Like they will avoid the confrontation, but they will be quite verbal about their problems. Without sort of really targeting the main issue, and they really they want to take life easy. And if you're gonna if you're like Moon in, I don't know, Taurus or Scorpio, they'll just find you a bit too heavy. They don't like things to be heavy. They like to be lighthearted and happy. They want to be like children and go wow, and they might actually hold a grudge. That's the sort of a controversial thing about them, but they'll probably keep it to themselves. That's also a bit controversial. You will never quite know. And they might forgive you quite easily if it's like really stupid, like for things that they took seriously at one point, and then they would say later on, "Oh, that was really stupid, didn't mean anything." So they move on quite easily as well. Quite hard to sort of read in terms of what they feel. They sort of, it takes time to sort of understand them, but also they don't like anybody digging inside. You just go, oh god, that's a little bit gross. So don't try that too much. They show things more through experience rather than talking about emotions. Moon in Cancer. Moon in Cancer needs a lot of comfort, a lot of support, and they need to feel like you are there for them. They can definitely hold grudges. Moon in Cancer will panic in a new place. They absolutely hate being in a situation they don't understand. If it's a physical situation, they could handle it. If it's an emotional situation, they will always try to see really deep into what it is you do. And if they don't understand what it is you do, there's no basically. If you're more, let's say, Moon in Gemini, and if you're sort of all vague and sort of like trying to just have fun, they will not understand it. And Moon in Cancer will really, really struggle with environments a little bit too different and to what they're used to. They don't like change. They really don't. They like to be in a home and to be safe and secure. Quite similar to how Moon in Taurus is. But Moon in Cancer will also need to know exactly how you feel. Like, if it's your romantic partner, will probably probe you, like, so, you know, they would need to know at what stage you are in a relationship. You know, are we there? Are we there? Yeah, oh, okay. You know, they sort of they sort of really need to know where they are emotionally with you, and they don't necessarily do it verbally, but they will try to sort of test where you are in terms of your relationship with them. And the really good thing about them is that they're really quite loyal. They can't stand betrayal. They just and lies, and they will hold grudges. But they really dedicate their energy to the other person. They're not selfish in that respect. Emotionally, they want to be there for the other person. They really do. So once you sort of pass by that sort of careful position, they're really willing to give themselves emotionally. They really do. Moon in Leo. Moon in Leo is an interesting one. Because they want to be there for people, but they want you to really appreciate what they do for you. And sometimes, maybe it's me being just a bit sarcastic, but they sometimes can do things for you even if you don't need them, and then they would really want you to appreciate it, and they get really upset if you don't. They don't necessarily. They might not ask you what it is that you want, but you see they see you in trouble, and they sort of assess the situation, and they do something for you, and they expect you to really like it, even though this might not be the thing that you like. But they sort of try to be there for other people, but ultimately they just want to be like, they want to be liked for being this generous and caring person. And in relationships, they can be quite dominating for that reason. They want to be in charge of a relationship, emotionally, and not. It's not like they don't compromise. They do compromise, but they want to be in charge. They want to be in the driver's seat when it comes to relationships. But on the good side, they're really loyal. They really put a lot of effort. If you're with them, if they love you, they put a lot of effort. They can just sort of drag the blanket to their side a little bit at times, but they and they let go quite easily, and they forgive, unless you hurt their ego. Never sort of mention their past, just like common things. Don't compare them to their parents. If they don't have good relations with their parents, they'll move on. Anything has to do with their pride. They have to feel pride in what they do with you, and emotionally they don't want to be sort of pushed into the corner, and then when they feel good, they will give quite a lot, quite generously. Moon in Virgo. Moon in Virgo is very difficult to read. I think Moon in Virgo is one of those positions, because it's a very non-emotional sort of position in the chart. It will be quite difficult for other people to read them. It will be quite difficult for them to understand what it is they feel. They will try really hard. They will try really hard to control their emotional responses. They will try really hard to control the emotions. So as a result, it can come out in some really weird, strange ways, in ways they don't understand and other people don't understand. Ultimately, they will be very caring and giving people, but because they'll try so hard to be, they will, they sort of, like, Virgo is a very rational mind, and then you have a irrational planet in Virgo. It's a complete paradox. So they will try really hard to sort of hide it and or control it, and then it will come out in some really strange ways. And quite often they wouldn't be able to sort of explain themselves what it is that they feel. Even though at the same time, unlike, let's say, Moon in Virgo, Moon in Gemini, They will actually, Moon and Virgo will have really deep emotions and really deep attachments, but they will struggle to emotionally sort of assess them and express what it is. There will be a certain element of challenge when it comes to emotional expression. Unlike, let's say, Moon and Leo will be quite expressive in their emotions. They will really show how they feel. And Moon and Virgo is the one that's really difficult to express. They find very difficult, sort of expect you to read their mind. And if you get to that point, if you know them if you know them very well, they will value you beyond what's possible. They will really, really, really appreciate you because you know, the element of emotional expression is challenging to them. And if you know them for long, it takes them time to build significant relationships. And if you kind of sort of get into that point, then you know you can really unravel and they can as well. I think they do their best in terms of their moon and in terms of their emotional expression through long-term relationships. Sort of when they feel comfortable enough, they can really sort of go and explore, but it takes time. It really takes time. Moon in Libra always will try to be diplomatic. Always will try to be sort of on top of things in terms of like harmony. And they'll try to harmonize the relationship they're in. Might be a bit self-neglectant, so they might neglect. Oh my God. They might neglect themselves in relationships emotionally. Not like be a martyr, but they can sort of not quite know how important it is to sort of assert their emotions. Can be a little bit too dependable on other people, not just any people, sorry, but the people they really care about. They might find it a bit overwhelming because they would ultimately strive for this harmony with this other person. And if that person is not on the same sort of wavelength, they wouldn't understand. They'll find it quite challenging. They also struggle a little bit with things that are completely new. They need a certain sort of stability. But at the same time, Moon in Libras have a certain attraction to things they don't understand. So they might venture into a new sort of area and explore. Probably younger in life, they will do quite a bit of experimentation. Actually, Moon in Virgo might do that as well, because they have issues with sort of understanding their own emotional side. They might sort of do things that are completely different to their nature, to sort of come closer to who they are. Moon in Libra has that tendency as well. They might have quite a few sort of partners and sort of try to understand, explore that path in order to understand how they are and how they react. And later in life, they tend to be quite wise and quite understanding, and can give you a lot of insight from the emotional point of view. They can be they're quite intellectual about it as well. But unlike, let's say, Moon in Gemini, they actually do. They're quite philosophical. They'll analyze it, and so they have to expose themselves to experience in order to get that insight, and they do. And once they find the person that's really right for them, they're really loyal and really they have this idealistic version of love. So they're quite loyal, and in at the point of crisis, they'll probably do nothing. Yeah, there are certain signs that just escape the reality, and it's at the point of crisis, and that's one of them. Moon in Scorpio. Moon in Scorpio is complicated but exciting as well. Moon in Scorpio will know other people's emotions really well, can read other people really well, can potentially struggle as a result of that because they understand a bit too much. So they sort of like, they can, on the wrong sort of side of it, they can sort of get a little bit too paranoid about everyone trying to do something really awful to them. But on the good, if they go to the good side, they sort of they will probably have a lot of, not a lot, but they'll have really deep relationships, really deep friendships, and they will have deep intimate relationships that would mean anything to them. They will sort of dedicate their life to that, really, to relationships. They can do whatever else for work or whatever, but the emotional side, the relationships not just like from the practical point of view, but from emotional point of view, it will be sort of their purpose in life. They will thrive through that. And if they don't have it, they will really suffer. They need that in their life, most definitely. And in terms of crisis, they'll obviously sting you, and they can be awful at times, but I don't know. I think it's an interesting one. Moon in Scorpio is an interesting one. They can be an amazing savior to somebody who's in a really horrible position in life, who's really neglected, and who is just like this outcast. And they can come and save that person. But on the wrong side of it, they can really torture someone because they don't feel comfortable with that person. It's a really quite powerful position. They have a lot of power. They have a lot of power when it comes to emotion, and it's sort of up to them how they're going to use it. I think that's sort of the key, is that they have to really work out. They have to realize that they have this power, and then they have to work out how to handle it. In any situation when you have too much power, it can sort of backfire, So if they dedicate it to the right cause, then they can really transform other people's lives. I think so. Moon in Sagittarius. Moon in Sagittarius will have a quite philosophical outlook towards love and emotions. Can be quite impulsive sometimes. Can sometimes be quite disconnected from the emotions while being really, really intellectual about it. So they can really talk a lot about this and that, and this happened in my life and in my past and my parents, and they can overanalyze, and really dig into, wow, what is my subconscious, why do I feel like that? At the same time, completely sort of disconnect from how they feel. There's this tendency there. So I think if they master to sort of be more in touch with how they feel, they can be, again, really quite profound in terms of what choices they make in life and how they affect other people. They're quite philosophical. They also, like Scorpios, like Libras, they need to have a certain amount of experience, but then they can really influence other people and sort of bring out the best in other people. But they do need to sort of work out themselves first, and this is where the trouble is, because they tend to avoid their own emotions, and it will take a certain amount of effort, and then they'll feel quite content with them within themselves. But at the same time, they do look for a challenge. They don't like getting bored. So with Moon in Sagittarius, these are the folks that will be up for a challenge, and if they're in a difficult situation, they will be the best possible survivor. If there's a group of people and you're stuck on a mountain, look for Moon in Sagittarius. They will get you out of there. They will. They definitely will. Unless it's a matter of life and death and somebody has to die in the process for other people to survive, then I don't know. I'm just kidding. They are incredibly altruistic, and they will help people out, and they're really good friends. And Moon in Sagittarius we will look out for other people, but they need to gain a certain amount of experience in life in order to do it well. they might be a little bit maybe too ambitious early in life and get into certain situations that are not, I don't know, favorable for them or other people, but they have the potential to develop quite far and handle critical situations really well and not being too impulsive. I think early in life they might be a little bit too impulsive and too sort of quick to judge, but they have the potential to develop really sort of the understanding and patience. I know the rest, I think they definitely do. And so Moon in Capricorn is the same. They have a lot of patience and a lot of understanding of sort of faulty things, but they can backfire in a sort of, in a way that people can get a bit too depressed. Moon in Capricorn can get a little bit too pessimistic, too passive about life. It just can go, you know, that's just how life is, and there's nothing I can do. It can happen. So they need a bit of a kick, and they need to kick themselves through life. They don't like challenges, even though they're probably the best people to handle them. Like, everyone else would panic, whatever, they'll be fine. They might drink themselves to death afterwards, but they can really handle situations while everyone else is, wow, avoiding or whatever else, panicking. They can just go, okay, I'll take care of things. And they normally do. And I think that's what happened with Moon in Capricorn, is that they have a tendency to take care of everyone else, and then when it comes to them, they don't have any energy anymore, and then they can be a little bit, not necessarily self-destructive, but pessimistic, and sort of be like, oh God, you know, I have to do this again for you, children. But so they need to develop certain amount of self-love and self-care. But it can go the other way around, and they can be a little bit too selfish and too sort of calculating. And when it comes to emotions, you can't calculate. So it will only make them even more depressed. So they might go into this like rational, functional sort of mode, and they'll go like, okay, you know, crisis, and I have to like calculate how to survive. But you know, because it's emotions, like you can't predict certain outcome when it comes to emotion. You know, I put this amount of energy and then I have to get this much. It doesn't work. So like Moon in Capricorn can sort of get into that mode sometimes and then go like, oh, this is not worth it, you know, like you're a bit too difficult, or it can create problems for themselves, even though they have a lot of potential to help other people and to get along with other people, understand their emotions, but they can get a little bit too sort of wrapped up in it, and then try to get to control the situation in a way that is not productive, because it's emotions. If it was their sun, if it was some kind of, or if it was their Venus, if it was some rational situation or some practical situation, it's fine. But when it comes to emotions, they can get a bit too sort of controlling and a bit too overwhelmed with the desire to control that situation. And that's not going to help them or anybody else. And so letting go, relaxing, major issue with relaxing. If they can learn how to relax, they can definitely have an easier life. So it's something to work on. But they are incredibly loyal, and people can depend on them, and they can handle a lot of stuff if only they believe in it and just do it, you know. Yeah. Moon in Aquarius. Moon in Aquarius are definitely like the outcasts of all the 12. Moon in Aquarius doesn't have one way of dealing with the situation. They love crisis. They love all sorts of stuff they don't understand. They love it. They can handle it. They're perfectly okay with whatever life throws at them. They're very philosophical about it. They also thrive on a challenge and change. It's like Antinius, same challenge, might not, but like all the change and everything allows them an opportunity for growth. Yeah, bring it on. can be a little bit too much. They can push a little bit too much, and ultimately avoiding the issues within them, because emotions is not the emotions are not just about sort of reacting to a particular problem. It's also about nurturing who you are and becoming self-aware, so you can, you know, handle problems in a more sort of meaningful way. They can get a little bit too wrapped up in that, and then they can repeat certain things and might not necessarily see them, and they can get a little bit too obsessive with that, because they do love crisis, and not actually love it, but they feel quite comfortable with it. But at the same time, they avoid it. It's a bit of a paradox. They sort of like to have something new in life, but they also don't particularly want to change anything about themselves. They sort of think that they know stuff, and have a tendency to jump from one challenge to another, one person to another, one relationship to another. There is that potential there. But on the good side, they can handle a lot of stuff. They can handle, you know, the world's crisis. And everyone will sort of choose sides and hate each other and try to kill each other. They'll probably manage to avoid that. They will be the people who manage somehow magically avoid that division and split when it comes to conflicts, which is a gift in itself. Also very comfortable going from a new situation to another, so they'll probably have, you know, quite a few experiences in life that they could pass on to other people later on in life as well. Moon in Pisces. Moon in Pisces is a bit difficult, because Moon in Pisces will ultimately drive the person to sacrifice their own needs for the benefit of another being. They'll have a tendency to not face their own problems, instead sort of look at everyone else and try to fix them. Moon in Virgo has a tendency like that as well, but in a more practical sense. And Moon in Pisces most definitely will be haunted by this constant need to fix other people's problems, even though they might not be able to. It doesn't mean that they have the capacity, like Moon in Capricorn. They will have the need. To, you know, work you out and help you, instead of focusing on themselves. That's the worst sort of case scenario. On the positive side, they do have a lot of resources, and they are quite self-aware, and they can read other people really well, and they can be really good, you know, psychologists. Like Moon in Scorpio, they can be really good psychiatrists and understand other people's needs, but have a tendency to be a little bit self-neglecting, and also escapism. That's another problem, is everything they possibly can, and they can do a lot, but escaping their own problems through various means. So they really can help other people, but they need to learn how to help themselves first. You can't really help anybody before you can help yourself. That's sort of the bottom line. So that's sort of the lesson you need to learn. But in terms of crisis, all sort of problems, they can handle things really well. They just let things happen until things fall into the right place, or the next place, or whatever it might be. They handle things quite well. Don't hold grudges. They just in a constant flow. So it's quite a favorable position from that point of view. They don't freak out, and they don't want to kill somebody when there is crisis. And when everyone is crisis, again, they will be quite capable. Like Aquarius, they'll be quite capable of handling. Like Aquarius will be quite intellectual, but Pisces will probably go and you know, bring food to everyone who's really starving, because they will know who is starving, like everyone else. They will. They have the They have the need to look out for other people's problems. So they will know who is in the greatest need. If charities of the world hired all Moon in Pisces, they could spend their money quite well, because Moon in Pisces will know where that money needs to go. Anyway, I'm going to finish with this. If you have any questions, obviously don't hesitate and get in touch. If you have a particular topic that interests you, let me know, because then it will give me an idea of what it is you would like to learn about. And I do personal consultations. You can always email me. The email is below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I try to be detailed yet brief. And there's definitely much more I can say, but I don't want to bore you anymore. That's enough for today. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.